A linear function is a function that can be represented on a graph by a straight line. So there's many different graphs that would be functions. The ones that look like straight lines are linear. And that makes sense because it's got the word line in it, linear. It's got the word line right there. This is more like what you're going to be doing on the assignment. We think of the variable x as our input value. The variable y is our output value. And so we input a value for x into this function, and we calculate what our output is, our y value. And so here's what you do. You pick an easy value for x. The easiest value for x often is 0. So I'm going to check x. When x equals 0, what will y equal 3x be? I just write it again, but I substitute 0 for x. X is 0. That's my input. I'm inputting this value. I'm putting the value 0 in place of the x. I'm substituting. We learned substitution property this year. 3 multiplied by 0 is 0. So when I input 0 for x, my output for y is also 0. So xy, our ordered pair xy, is 0, 0. This linear equation, this linear function, has a point at the origin, 0, 0. Now I'll pick another easy value for x, positive 1. When x equals positive 1, y equals 3x will give me y equals 3 multiplied by positive 1. So y equals 3. So when I input positive 1, the output is 3. So the point 1, 3, the ordered pair, the point 1, 3, 1 to the right and up 3, is another point that exists on our line, on our linear equation. I want you to see that you could pick negative values, of course. You could also pick fractional values. And depending on the function, there are some clever choices you can make. We'll get to that in a minute. But let's just pick negative 1 as an input. If x is negative 1, the function's the same. Y equals 3 multiplied by x. So when I substitute negative 1 for x, y will equal 3 multiplied by negative 1. And positive times negative is negative, so y is negative 3. So when I input negative 1, my output is negative 3. Negative 1, negative 3. I start at the origin. Negative 1x means I go 1 to the left. Negative 3y, we go 3 down. You can see that these would all be on the same line. If I had drawn a line, let me actually do this. Let me erase this last point that we put on there. Let me get a different color. Okay, if I draw a line through these first 2 points, there's my line. But when we graph this third point, it should be on our line because this function represents all of the possible outputs I would get for any possible input. And so when x is negative 1, the output is negative 3. So it should be on that line. That line defines the relationship between x and y, the inputs and the outputs.